personal trainer. After having my daughter, I ended up in physical therapy twice, 6 months total. This is what my workouts look like now. Last week, I told you how I stopped fighting food, but that was only half of the story because I also had to stop fighting my body in the gym. Today, I'm taking you inside the 30-minute full body workouts that I do now, why my training had to change, and what rebuilding looks like when you still love intensity, but your foundation has to be ready for it.
Got it.
Mama's gonna move your car, okay? This is Sunday, full body day. Mama! Yes, baby? You wanna sit with me? Okay. This is Sunday, full body day. Reddy is going to be my workout buddy for today. There are toys everywhere. She might interrupt me, but I might need to change something like when we get started, but at least I'm still moving. Despite any changes, this is not the workout going wrong. This is the actual workout that just fits into my real life right now. But to understand why it looks this way, you have to understand how intensity became such a big part of who I am. I lifted weights, I tracked progress, progressive overload, so adding weight, reps, control, range of motion over time, that was always the foundation. Then I found HIIT. I loved it. Eventually, I became known as a HIIT trainer. I once ran an Athleta event where there weren't enough mats for the 30 plus people who showed up, and I stood at the front of that room just bringing the energy. That version of me was real. I still love training hard, and I would genuinely love to bring more HIIT back someday. But progressive overload was always the foundation. HIIT was the tool I loved most, not the only tool I had. And this is not that season. My body had a history that intensity alone could not erase. When I was 20 years old, I had a breast reduction, but years of carrying that weight shaped my posture. So some of the muscles through my upper and mid back were not contributing in the way they needed to, while bigger muscles kept taking over. Then came pregnancy, childbirth, nursing posture, carrying a baby and eventually a toddler, the car seat, the diaper bag, the laundry. It's just repetitive demands that don't look like exercise, but still ask a lot from your body. About 6 months postpartum, I was in pelvic floor physical therapy. Then a year postpartum, I elevated my first rib. I spent 4 months in physical therapy. I worked my way back, and then I elevated my first and second ribs during the flexed arm hang. That was another 2 months of PT. I knew the principles. I had coached clients through modifications, recovery, and rebuilding all of the time. But knowing something professionally and accepting it personally are two very different things. So I became my own client. So this is what a full body day looks like right now. First, starting with mobility. This used to be the part that I rushed through because I just wanted to get right to the workout. But I have come to realize that this is probably the most important part of the workout. So I'm not gonna pretend that 5 minutes of mobility can prevent every injury. But what it does for me is that it slows me down long enough for me to actually realize how my body is feeling so that I can check in with it and notice how my body is moving before I add load. Ask myself how do my hips feel today? How's my low back? How's my upper back? Can I control my ribs, my pelvis? And does anything feel different from the last session? This is less about checking a box and more about just gathering information. We're getting into circuit 1, which consists of 4 different movements, and we're doing 3 rounds of it. So I start off with an incline burpee. I added a jump because my body just feels good today. And that's what modification looks like right now. It is not automatically making exercise easy. It is choosing a version of the exercise that I can control and that I can recover from today. Then I got into hamstring curls, and they are not fancy. I don't have a stability ball in my basement right now, so I actually just use socks on tile floor. Works like a charm. And then I have my chest fly. The chest fly is light and controlled. And the hover plank asked me to just keep my trunk and my hips steady. as one leg extends out from behind me, incorporating that hamstring and the glute. The movements are different, but the question underneath them is the same thing. It's, can I create effort without losing control of the position I'm trying to build? I remember I was teaching a HIIT class at Athleta and 30 people showed up and there were not enough mats to go around. Now I have one tiny person trying to steal the only mat I have. Neither version is less real. They just belong to different seasons of my life. What do you need help with? What? Ren just went with her papa, so we're working out like we have no kids. The single-sided leg work, that is especially useful for me because it just helps expose when one side is trying to take over for the other. And then I added in a squat with a rotation, and I like this one because it helps me practice just producing force while my trunk is controlling the movement. And then I added in renegade rows, and this is where my shoulders and my core have to stay aligned and they have to stay stable under load. And then I have those lateral hip raises or hip dips, and that is combining just upper body control with lateral core work. I'm not trying to turn every exercise into physical therapy like movements. This is still strength training at its core, and progressive overloading hasn't disappeared from my program, but things just look a little bit different right now. I still want to improve. I still want to add repetitions, load, control, range of motion, but only when my body is ready. What has changed is that I no longer skip those foundational movements just to reach the most intense part of the workout faster. Some days progress looks like adding heavier dumbbells, sometimes it's having more control, and sometimes it's just repeating workouts without the flare-ups that used to follow it. All of that counts. My workouts don't end with the last rep anymore, and this is the part that I used to skip entirely. I would give a good 30-second stretch, I would grab my stuff, and I would leave. Now I treat recovery as the closing chapter of my session. My body needs to come down in the same ways that it needed to warm up. This is not about being precious. This is about being able to come back into this basement and train again in 2 days without being sidelined. Sunday is a full body day, but this is not the only workout I do all week. I also train an upper body day and a lower body day separately. The same principles apply though. Control movements, progressive overload where it makes sense, and a real warm up and cool down. And on 2 other days, I walk 20 to 40 minutes on my walking pad while I work. That's it. Not because walking is a shortcut to results, but because low intensity movement the rest of the week lets me show up for the heavier days recovered and just ready to perform. The training week isn't just about the workout. It's about what happens between the workouts. So sleep, hydration, protein, and giving my body enough low intensity movement that it doesn't stiffen up between sessions. 30 minutes, 3 strength days, 2 walks. That's the full picture. Last week, I told you food noise wasn't a willpower problem. It's a signal. Exercise is the same thing. When I stopped chasing exhaustion and started training to feel stable, that's when my body actually started to change. Progress right now isn't dramatic. My clothes fit a little bit differently. I'm consistent in a way I haven't been since before pregnancy, and I can finally hold my daughter without being in physical pain. There is nothing less than about training for this season. I used to think that a workout that didn't leave me on the floor was a workout I didn't push hard enough. But I know now the workouts I need are something I can recover from before the next session, not something that sends me backwards. Foundational consistency before intensity, every single time. If you are rebuilding postpartum, post-injury, post-burnout, meet your body where it is. Take the time to rebuild your foundation before you ask it to perform. The strength you want is still coming, but it has to be built on a platform that can actually hold it. If you need a framework for when life gets chaotic, my free out of routine workout guide is linked in the description. Next week, I'm sharing something I have never talked about on camera. I lost 65 pounds, and there were 5 things that nobody warned me about. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Stay strong, bold, and healthy, and I'll see you next time.